to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on today's headlines. A huge fire has destroyed a historic post office building in the Philippine capital, Manila. The Manila Central Post Office is a national historical landmark of the country, and it is a popular tourist destination and known for its beautiful architecture and role in the history of the country. At the conclusion of the G7 summit in Hiroshima, Japan, the UN Secretary General delivered a resolute message to world leaders, emphasizing the dire financial situation faced by the majority of countries around the globe.
The cyclone left a trail.
The World Food Program has warned that 800,000 people in Myanmar have been directly affected by cyclone MOCHA and need urgent help. Papua New Guinea and Fiji solidified their alliance to represent Pacific Island nations in the upcoming meetings with India and the U.S. From Port Moresby, Ecor Telesa Quinola will give us an update. A devastating story. First in our news, a massive fire destroyed a historic post office building in the Philippine capital, Manila. Take a look. Authorities confirmed the destruction of the decades-old landmark today. The Bureau of Fire Protection mobilized over 80 fire trucks to the scene as the blaze erupted late on Sunday. The site was shrouded in thick black smoke, billowing several hundred meters into the sky, while flames ravaged the neoclassical architecture of the Manila Central Post Office. The Manila Central Post Office is the headquarters of the Philippine Postal Corporation, a government-owned and controlled corporation. It's also the main mail sorting and distribution center for the country. The building was designed by renowned Filipino architects Juan Arellano and Thomas Mapua in the neoclassical style. Construction began in 1926 and was completed in 1928. During the Battle of Manila in World War II, the building was severely damaged. It was rebuilt in 1946 and has been used ever since. The Manila Central Post Office is a national historical landmark of the country. Investigation on the fire is ongoing. President Marcos Jr. stated that the recently acquired missile system by the Philippine Navy enhances the country's defense capabilities, particularly in countering air attacks amidst a dynamically changing security environment in the region. The president also reiterated the government's commitment to modernizing the military. He said that the modernization program is necessary to ensure that the country has the capabilities to defend itself against any threats. Take a look.
With the fluid security situation in our region, it is imperative that the Armed Forces of the Philippines, and of course the Navy, is substantially equipped, trained, and always on alert to respond to any and all exigencies that may confront our nation. It is for this prime reason that we exert a continuous effort to strengthen the capacity of our armed forces. Through strategic acquisitions and asset upgrading, we provide our armed forces with the wherewithal to be more effective in its solemn and sworn duty to defend our people and territory and advance and sworn duty to defend our people, Philippine national interest.
This is our first anti-air missile capability, and previously we did not have this type of weapon, but slowly, because of our modernization program, we are acquiring this cutting-edge technology at par with the other navies in the world. Ang mga missile system na ito ay nakakabit sa ating mga frigates, and presently we have 2 Jose Rizal class frigates. So kasakasama ito sa pagpatrolya sa ating mga karagatan. When the ship goes to patrol the West Philippine Sea, kasakasama yung missile system na ito. This demonstrates our improved capabilities to protect our waters, our maritime environment, and we hope that we continue with our modernization program so that we can acquire other capabilities we need to perform our mandate better.
The President participated in the Philippine Navy's capability demonstration held in San Antonio, Zambales, observing the successful test firing of the newly acquired defense and other weapon systems. The President's statements come at a time when the Philippines is facing a number of security challenges, including the rise of China's military power and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The exercises and the modernization program are signs that the Philippines is committed to strengthening its defense capabilities and deterring potential threats. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky wrapped up a triumphant diplomatic offensive in Hiroshima, heading home bearing new arms, munitions, and the unwavering diplomatic support of G7 allies. A day earlier, the Wagner Group and Moscow's regular army claimed to have fully captured Bakhmut, with Russian President Vladimir Putin congratulating them on the alleged conquest. But speaking at the G7 summit in Hiroshima, Zelensky denied Russia's claims.
Життя людей. Найскладніше, якщо в Бахмуті була би якась військово-тактична помилка, і люди могли би бути в оточенні. От тоді знають ці військові, вони знають, що діяти, як не допустити, щоб наші люди попали в полон до ворога. Сьогодні вони виконують дуже важливе завдання. Сьогодні вони знаходяться в Бахмуті. В яких точках ділитися не буду, але це говорить про те, що Бахмут не охоплений на сьогодні Російською Федерацією. Ніяких двох або трьох тлумачень цьому не може бути.
Leaders from India, Brazil, Vietnam, and Indonesia were among those invited to attend the summit as non-members. The Ukrainian army on Sunday said it retained an insignificant part of the city and that soldiers were advancing in from the city's outer limits. But Yevgeny Prigozhin, the chief of Wagner, whose fighters have spearheaded Russia's advance on Bakhmut, insisted that there were no Ukrainian troops there. Prigozhin said that Zelensky was either not telling the truth or, like many of our own military leaders, he said, simply doesn't know what is happening on the ground.
Сегодня пополудня в 12 часов полностью был взят Бахмут. 224 дня длилась операция по взятию Бахмута, Бахмутская мясорубка.
Prigozhin said Wagner would hand over control of Bakhmut to the regular Russian army by May 25. The two camps are now awaiting the Ukrainian counteroffensive, but Zelensky said recently his army needs more time before launching the assault. At the conclusion of the G7 summit in Hiroshima, Japan, the United Nations Secretary General delivered a resolute message to world leaders, emphasizing the dire financial situation faced by the majority of countries around the globe. Secretary General Antonio Guterres stressed that while uncertainty prevails in the economic landscape worldwide, wealthier nations cannot overlook the fact that over half of the world's countries are grappling with a deep financial crisis.
My message to G7 leaders is clear. While the economic picture is uncertain everywhere, rich countries cannot ignore the fact that more than half the world, the vast majority of countries, are suffering through a deep financial crisis. There is a systematic unjust bias in global economic and financial frameworks in favor of rich countries, which is naturally generating great frustration in the developing world. Access to COVID-19 vaccines was deeply unfair. The recovery has been extremely unbalanced. It's time to reform both the Security Council and the Bretton Woods institutions. And this is essentially a question of redistributing power in line with the realities of today's world.
Turning to the issue of climate change, the Secretary General acknowledged that while climate action is underway, it's insufficient and the world is falling short.
Climate action is working, but not enough. and we are clearly off track to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. The acceleration agenda I proposed aimed to make up for lost time, and it calls for all G7 countries to reach net zero as close as possible to 2040, and for emerging economies to do so as close as possible to 2050.
Reflecting on the historical significance of Hiroshima, Mr. Gutierrez portrayed it as a global symbol of the devastating consequences that arise when nations fail to collaborate and resolve conflicts peacefully.
Hiroshima is a global symbol of the tragic consequences when nations fail to work together and settle their differences peacefully. In our multipolar world, as geopolitical divisions grow, no country or group of countries can stand by as billions of people struggle with the basics of food, water, education, healthcare, and jobs. Here in Hiroshima, it's time to demonstrate global leadership and global solidarity.
The leaders of the Quad Group, Australia, India, Japan, and the US, took a veiled swipe at Beijing's actions during a summit in Hiroshima, Japan. Although China wasn't mentioned by the name, the joint statement issued by US President Joe Biden and the three other Quad leaders clearly targeted the communist superpower. The statement emphasized the need for peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific maritime domain and expressed opposition to destabilizing or unilateral actions that attempt to alter the status quo through force or coercion. The leaders voiced serious concerns about the militarization of disputed areas, the use of Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels, and attempts to disrupt offshore resource exploitation activities. Now, these references were clearly aimed at China's construction of bases on former offshore reefs and its harassment of non-Chinese vessels in disputed waters. The leaders also emphasized the importance of undersea cable networks in the Indo-Pacific region and announced a partnership to support the development of quality undersea cables, drawing on their country's expertise in the maritime cable sector. Furthermore, they also mentioned the expansion of a pilot program for high-tech monitoring of illegal fishing activities. Overall, the Quad leaders used diplomatic language to indirectly address China's behavior, focusing on issues such as military expansion, territorial disputes, and economic influence in the region. Now, the G7 countries agreed on a set of tools to combat economic coercion from China. The measures will focus on building more resilient supply chains and protecting sensitive technology. The agreement is an attempt to avoid outright confrontation with China while protecting Western interests. Take a look.
Big focus of today will be on economic security. The G7 leaders will outline a common set of tools to address concerns that each of our countries face, including from economic coercion and from efforts at the intersection of technology and national security to undermine our collective interests and our collective security. These tools, these economic security tools, will include steps to build resilience in our supply chains. They will also include steps to protect sensitive technology, like export controls and outbound investment measures. The communique will reflect is a statement of key elements on which all G7 countries are aligned when it comes to dealing with the PRC. The communique will note that each country has its own independent relationship and approach, but we are united and aligned around a set of common elements, and it will walk through those elements.
The agreement between the G7 countries is a sign that they are united in their concerns about China. However, it's important to note that the agreement doesn't represent a new Cold War with China. The G7 countries still want to maintain stable relations with China and work together on issues of mutual interests.
So that we will work to address our significant concerns that we have with China in a range of areas. We are, as President Biden has said, as I have said, as others have said, and to borrow a phrase from the European Union itself, looking to de-risk, not decouple from China.
The World Food Program has warned that 800,000 people in Myanmar have been directly affected by Cyclone MOCHA and need urgent help. The cyclone made landfall in Myanmar last Sunday with winds of up to 175 miles per hour. The storm caused widespread damage, including flooding, landslides, and power outages. Take a look.
The cyclone left a trail of devastation across Myanmar's Rakhine state. Houses are flattened, roads have been cut off, hospitals and schools have been destroyed, and telecommunications, as you know, were severely disrupted. Our own office and warehouses also sustained some damage, though we're moving fast to repair them. Heavy rains triggered flash floods and landslides, and today we estimate that at least 800,000 people in the path of the cyclone need emergency food assistance. Greater needs for food, shelter, water, health, and other humanitarian aid are expected to be revealed as we reach more areas.
The WFP official said that Myanmar's military junta, which seized power in a coup in February 2021, had given permission for the UN and its partners to reach affected communities. The WFP said that it needs $60 million to help communities in Myanmar affected by Cyclone MOCHA between now and the end of the year. The UN agency also reported that in neighboring Bangladesh, coastal communities narrowly escaped the worst of the cyclone, but humanitarians are still unable to reach them because roads remain blocked and flood damage has been significant. In Geneva, Switzerland, the 76th World Health Assembly commenced with a compelling address by the Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. He emphasized that while COVID-19 continues to pose a significant threat, it no longer constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. During his speech, Ghebreyesus reflected on the profound impact of the pandemic.
Thank you all for being with us today for this historic World Health Assembly in WHO's 75th year. Over the past 3 years, COVID-19 has turned our world upside down. Almost 7 million deaths have been reported, but we know the toll is several times higher, at least 20 million. The pandemic has caused severe disruption to health systems, severe economic, social, and political upheaval. To be clear, COVID-19 is still with us. It still kills. It's still changing, and it still demands our attention. But it no longer represents a public health emergency of international concern. The end of COVID-19 as a global health emergency is not just the end of bad dream from which we have woken. We cannot simply carry on as we did before.
Back here in the country, according to the Weather Bureau's latest update, rain showers will persist in many parts of the country due to the influence of the southwesterly wind flow, and localized thunderstorms will be felt. Palawan, Occidental, Mindoro, and Antique are expected to experience scattered rain showers and thunderstorms as a result of the southwesterly wind flow.
Ang nakakapekto partikular na nga sa may kanlurang bahagi ng Timog Luzon, gayon din sa may kanlurang bahagi ho ng Visayas at ng Mindanao. Ito ay nasa ating magdadala ng mga pag-ulan, partikular na sa Palawan, ilang bahagi ng Mindoro at dyan sa may Panay Island. Makikita ko ninyo sa ibang bahagi nating bansa, posiblyo, mainit pa rin yung panahon na mararanasan sa araw na ito, pero tumataas na po yung mga posibilidad ng mga pagkilat, pagkulog o mga tinatawag nating isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. Kaya mainam ho, magdala tayo lagi ng mga pananggalang sa ulan dahil mula ho ngayon, ina-expect nga ho natin na mas mapapadalas na yung mga pag-ulan sa hapon hanggang sa gabi at minsan ho sa madaling araw. Ngayon naman, binabantayan natin itong typhoon na may international name na Mawar. Ang ibig sabihin ho ng Mawar, nagmula ho ito sa Malaysia, ang ibig sabihin niya ay Rosas. So yung bansang Malaysia ho ang nagbigay nitong pangalang ito. At huli itong namataan na sa layong 2,330 kilometers silangan ng bahagi naman ng Mindanao. Wala pa itong direktang epekto sa ating bansa At inaasahan nga natin ikikilos pa hilagang kanluran at posibleng nga ho na pumasok ng Philippine Area of Responsibility bandang araw ho ng Biyernes. Kaya mula ngayon hanggang Huwebes, asahan pa rin natin na medyo mainit pa rin yung panahon. Pero sa pagpasok ho ng bagyong si Mawar, pagpasok ho niya sa PAR, ang magiging pangalan niya ay Betty, kung sakali man po. At ito maaaring magpalakas ho ng hangin abagat. Sa ngayon ho, although matagal pa naman, ay posible ho na inaasahan natin na maging maulan bandang weekend. Partikular na dito sa may bahagi ho ng western sections ho ng Luzon, ng Visayas at ng Mindanao. Hindi yun direktang epekto nitong bagyo, pero inaasahan natin posible ho nitong mapalakas yung tinatawag nating hanging habagat o southwest monsoon. Kaya lagi ho kayo mag-update sa pag-asa, partikular na sa itong binabantayan natin na si Bagyong Mawar. Maaari po itong maging isang super typhoon, lalo na sa karagatan nito, kaya lagi po tayong tumutok sa update ng pag-asa.
Papua New Guinea and Fiji solidified their alliance to represent the Pacific Island nations in these upcoming meetings with India and the United States. For more, here's Ego Hortaleza Quinola for the report.
Prime Minister James Marape of Papua New Guinea and Prime Minister Steveni Rabuka of Fiji consolidate their stand to unite and speak on behalf of the smaller Pacific Island countries. The two leaders will raise issues of investment and trade, climate change, labor mobility, and employment with India and the United States at the upcoming Forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation. United States President Joe Biden cancels his trip to Papua New Guinea to deal with the debt ceiling issues in his country. In place of him is United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Honorable Prime Minister James Marape reiterates that Papua New Guinea is friend to all, enemy to none. Eko Hortaleza Quinola,
Guinea and the Pacific. His
development of energy and power supply for Papua New Guinea and the Pacific. He underscores the importance of linking the Pacific countries to International Finance Corporation, a part of the World Bank Group. Marape also says focusing on the private sector in emerging markets would be of great remedy.
Clean, green energy solutions.
Energy security has always been a big issue in these island nations. The Pacific Forum is the most opportune time to present solutions. Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Thousands of Indonesians lined the streets of Jakarta to celebrate the country's football team, who had just won gold at the Southeast Asian Games. In a show of unity, five Southeast Asian countries have jointly nominated the Kebaya for the UN prestigious Intangible Cultural Heritage List. The decision on whether to inscribe the Kebaya on the list is expected in 2024. Take a look.
Langkah Indonesia untuk mendaftarkan kebaya sebagai kekayaan tak benda ke UNESCO merupakan langkah yang sangat bagus dan dinanti-nanti oleh
people look at me weird. Where are you going? For example, when I went to the office and then all the security in front door, they said like, "Oh, are you going to a party or something, a wedding?" Yeah, in Indonesia, because when you wear kebaya, they always think that you are going to something special, a special event. But then I tried to explain, no, I want to work. At the time, it's so weird for others, but I believe like one person can make a difference, can make a change. So, and I love it. I only share my love to others.
It's a good time for people to get to know more about this kebaya. Not only for us, but for the community. Okay, it's something that very different because it involved with the embroidery itself, involved with the hand skill and the beauty of it. Craftsmen will takes about 4 to 8 weeks to produce one kebaya. Okay, they use the hand skill. Using the manual machine, which is like the old way, okay, to produce the kebaya. The kebaya in like 50s, 60s, still can wear in nowadays. So it's actually very versatile, and you can pass down to generations.
Kabaya, it's a traditional women's garment that became very popular in this region in the 19th and 20th century because of trade, because of movement of people. And because of that, there was a kind of fusion of cultures, influences, and different communities that brought about their own kabayas and also incorporated their own cultural identities in it.
So when I put on the kabaya, I feel history running through me. And I think it's because even as a child, whenever I went for any family functions, I would always get to see really beautiful kabayas on display. And
there's a growing popularity to wear the kabaya during formal functions such as weddings and family occasions as well. Interestingly, a lot of the younger crowd are adopting and proudly wearing the kabaya during their graduation as well, as an homage to their roots.
The kebaya is a traditional garment that is worn by women in Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and Thailand. It's a loose-fitting blouse that is typically made of cotton or silk. The kebaya is often decorated with intricate embroidery, and it can be worn with a variety of different skirts or pants. It's a symbol of the shared cultural heritage of the 5 Southeast Asian countries that have nominated it for the Intangible Cultural Heritage List. The 626 Night Market is known for holding its Southern California events at mega-sized venues. But in one coastal community, the night market opens at a much smaller location for leisurely inclined foodies in Santa Monica, California. Alan and Eva Basalyahe with a report.
The 626 Night Market is a popular Asian-inspired food and entertainment event that takes place throughout California and Las Vegas. The Santa Monica venue is a condensed and more compact version of the 626 in Arcadia.
But what this mini night market lacks in size is more than made up for with convenience. And while the location might be smaller, the variety of food and vendors is by no means lacking.
It's kind of nice that something just showed up in Santa Monica. You normally do the normal, like the pier, the boardwalk. You walk around there, and then so now here with the 626 here, it's like, just come here, get some food, you'll be good. What I tried was the yakitori, and that was actually really, really good. The old grandpa was making sure everything was to temperature. I loved it. I got a picture of him and everything.
It seems really calm, and everyone's just casually walking around, very friendly. We're talking to people.
It'd be easy to hit every spot here, whereas at the OC, a lot of times you hit 1 or 2 and that's about it, and there are a lot of places you miss. I got a horchata smoothie from Smoothies, and it's delicious.
And I got a crepe from Queen Crepe. It's the Biscoff. And I've never tasted it, but it looks really good.
We offer a variety of flavors that people like. So a lot of people like the barbecue and sour cream because it's something they're familiar with, like chips that they like, but then in a different form and more fulfilling. The 626 staff, they do pick the best among the booths. So you do have a smaller selection, but you have an easier time picking what you like.
We just like coming here because we have built the fan base, like the customer base in a way. So definitely the locals do enjoy it out here. It really warms my heart to know that people love our food and they will actually come back. They enjoy the sauce a lot, which we take pride in since, it's like homemade, we make it ourselves.
We sell lobster garlic noodles. It's the #1 dish we have. We also have other grilled oyster, fish balls. The perks of going to a mini is free entry. It's not as crowded. And if you like the more intimate events, place to go to take your family, I think the mini is a good option.
Ultimately, whether the 626 Night Market Mini Santa Monica is better than its more robust counterparts depends on personal preferences.
If you're looking for a smaller, more intimate setting, which still has a diverse selection of food and entertainment options, then a mini night market might be worth trying out.
Eva and Alan, Santa Monica, California, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angela. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.